Do you know why you need to get your air conditioner and furnace checked every season? Or why can't you leave your flower pots out year-round? Which is better, wood or gas for a fire pit? Find out the answers to these questions and many more today on For Your Home as we discuss, do you know why? Today's show is about all those little things around your house, like for example, the purchases you make and those routine maintenance requirements. Well, let's start today with our HVAC. Do you ever really wonder, is it really necessary to have your heating and cooling guy come out each season to check out your equipment? Well, this is Jacob. Hey Jacob, how's it doing?
Good.
And Jacob is my HVAC guy, and he's here to check out our furnace to get it going for the fall and the winter season. So, you know, I always hear the ads on TV and, you know, people have maintenance contracts and different things. What is it that you're really looking for? Kind of walk me through what you guys do when you come to check out a furnace.
Every year we want to make sure the equipment's safe for you. That's priority number one. The second purpose is for efficiency. There's a lot of, things that we can clean, adjust, check to make sure that you're getting every penny that you deserve out of your equipment, because a dirty coil or a part that's not functioning properly can cost you a lot of money in the long run. As far as safety goes, there's a lot of devices that are going to make sure that you stay safe in your home with the furnace.
Yeah, because we're talking about natural gas here, right? And electricity and those kind of things that cause fires.
Exactly.
And carbon monoxide and all those kind of things that we want to protect ourselves against. Walk me through the routine of what you would do when you approach a furnace.
We walk up to it, and basically there's a few things. We want to make sure we check the filters. We want to make sure that the gas is burning properly, the burners are clean. We check the capacitors, all electrical devices, the safety devices, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
Because if there's a device that does fail, that's the difference of a system possibly causing a fire, possibly having carbon monoxide leaking from it. We want to ensure safety.
Okay, so you check all the wiring throughout the entire furnace or just certain parts of it?
The entire furnace.
Okay, to make sure that it's all there. And you'd think that a piece of equipment is it's stationary, so how would those wires work their way loose during the season?
There's a lot of vibration. The motor is capable of moving a lot of air, and that's what cools you and keeps you warm. So as years and years of vibration, those things have to be tightened, checked, and just gone over.
Just like a routine on your car kind of.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about the filter, for example, because a lot of homeowners have filters that are in the vents in their house. And then in my case, my furnace has one big filter that's at the furnace.
Yes. Yeah, you have the yearly filter.
Okay, so the yearly filter. So when you do the maintenance check on that, you also change out that filter, or a homeowner can change out their own filters as well. What do you need to look at though? Because you pulled my filter out and it's only 5 months old, but you said it was time to replace it.
Yes, I think there had been some remodeling that maybe you've done recently, and when there's all that dust and dirt from construction, that will definitely clog a filter a lot sooner. People have to understand that when they read the package and it says up to 3 months or up to 1 year, that's the best case scenario in a very, very clean, sterile environment. Anytime there's living in the home and a lot of things just going on, cooking and cleaning and normal daily activities, that dust gets into the filter and it's really not actually a year or 1 month.
Okay, so a dirty filter affects the air quality in the house, but does it also affect the way how efficient or non-efficient the furnace runs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It will slow the air down as the filter keeps getting dirtier, which can cause your furnace to overheat.
What are some kind of questions you should ask a company that you're going to have come out and look at your furnace? What are some of the questions a homeowner can ask to know if they're getting the right person out there?
Is there a heat exchanger inspection included? If I have a gas furnace, does it include coil cleanings of the condenser and the evaporator?
Okay.
Those are some of the main things. How much of an electrical check am I getting? The entire system, or are you just checking key components? Because you want the entire system checked. You want all the connections to make sure they're tight. You have to just make sure that everything is getting checked. There's not one thing, because if they're not cleaning the evaporator and the condenser and coil, they're not doing their job right.
Well, now, we were standing right there with you, and we had our camera crew right there with you. As a homeowner, is it okay to stand there and watch them do their check on the furnace?
I don't mind. I actually kind of like it. Normally we're out here by ourselves, so I kind of
like the company.
I like the company.
Yeah, well, I found it very informative, and I'm sure that our viewers will as well. I'm going to let you get back to your job, and hopefully you don't find anything that's going to cost me any money. But I do have a lot more peace of mind knowing that you guys are really in there taking a look at it.
Well, we appreciate your business, and I'm glad to have everything working as best as I can for you.
You know, fall is a busy time for all of us gardeners because we have a lot of prep work to do before the cold winds start to blow, especially if you use a lot of containers in your garden. You know, they can get to be very expensive if you have to replace them every spring. So I want to give you some tips on how to make them last a lot longer. First of all, don't ever store your pots with dirt in them. Instead, dump out that potting soil. Take out the old plants, throw those away, and that soil can be recycled next spring if you put it into your compost pile. And if you don't have that, you can also just dump it out into one of your flower beds, pile up all of that dirt from your old containers, and then over the top of it, put a layer of grass clippings. If you don't have that, newspaper or some old leaves. Let it decompose over the winter time, and in the spring, you can reuse that potting soil. Okay, once your pots are all empty, you need to clean them. You know, you don't want to store them dirty for a lot of reasons. First of all, they're really messy. And number two, there can be bugs and insects that get into your pots during the summertime, and they just breed and grow over the winter. So if you mix up a solution of 10 parts water to 1 part bleach, and then you just put on some rubber gloves, take a scrub brush and scrub out the inside of your pot, rinse it out with plain water, set them out in the sunshine and let them dry, then they're ready to store away. Now, let's talk about some special kind of pots, like our porous pots. This is a ceramic glazed pot on the outside. On the inside though, it's not glazed. This is going to allow moisture or rain, if left outside, to get into this pot. When it gets really cold and you drop below freezing, that moisture will freeze, and as the ice expands, that's what cracks your pots. So if you have a pot like a terracotta pot or a ceramic glazed pot that's not glazed on the inside, then you need to be sure that you put them away like inside of the garage if you've got one. If you don't have a garage, here's something else you can do. Store them upside down like this. Put a couple of bricks down on the ground on the south side of your house or your building. Put them up on the bricks like this, upside down, and then cover them up with a tarp, something that'll keep the rain and snow from collecting inside of them. That's the best you can do to store them if you don't have a garage. But remember, if you've got just a little bit of storage space and a few terracotta pots, put those in the garage, because even the method I told you about turning upside down, it doesn't always work for terracotta because it's so porous. Now, the other thing that might come to your mind is like, what about big pots, Vicki? Like this one? Now, a big ceramic pot like this one, again, glazed on the outside, but not on the inside. This one is too big to be moving into your garage or try to struggle over to the south side of your house. Instead, here's what we're going to do to protect it. We're going to rock it up and slide some bricks underneath it again to keep it off the ground, empty out all the plants and all the dirt that's inside of it, and then we're going to take some simple bubble wrap like this, and we're going to wrap our pot in the bubble wrap. That acts just like an insulation that'll just keep it a little bit warmer, and then cover it over with either a large garbage bag or maybe another tarp. It may not look very pretty, but you don't want to be out there spending $200 or $300 on a pot this size every season. Regardless of what kind of flower pots you have, you're going to have to protect them unless they are wood or cast iron. Those are great because they can stay outside all year round without any protection. Now, once you've got all your flower pots taken care of, if you've got a fountain or a bird bath in your yard, you need to make sure that you prep it for the winter time too. First, start by draining your fountain. Make sure you get all the water out of it, but don't forget to cover it also either with a fountain cover or with a tarp, because if water falls in here, again, it freezes in the winter and it'll crack it. And don't think if you keep your fountain running through the winter, you'll be safe. That doesn't work. Make sure you clean it out. For a bird bath, same thing. Make sure that you turn your bird bath bowl over upside down so water doesn't collect in it during the winter time. That way when spring comes, you'll be ready to plant beautiful container gardens all around your yard, welcome the birds back to their bird fountain, and throw the switch and turn on your fountain. As the weather starts to turn a little bit chilly, most of us are looking for a way that we can get just a little bit more out of those cold nights. Well, of course, the best way to do that is to add some heat outside. There's two primary ways to do that. One is with a fireplace, and the other is the very popular fire pits. The most affordable of those two choices, of course, is a fire pit. But you know, you have a lot of choices in that field as well. So this is Chris, and Chris is our HVAC guy, and he's here to talk to us about what our options are, the pros and the cons when making that decision, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's start with the first one, which is probably the most affordable fire pit, which is a wood burner. What are the drawbacks of that?
The biggest drawback, obviously, with the wood burner is the fact that, number one, you got to get the wood. Either you're going to have to buy it, local home improvement store, Walmart, or go out and cut it and chop it yourself.
Yeah.
You have storage to think about as well.
And you have to keep it dry.
And you have to keep it dry in the storage. And then, you know, you don't want to keep wood around too long because it can attract termites.
Yeah, so stacked up against your house is not a good option.
Correct. Once you do get the fire burning, which sometimes can be a little tricky as well, getting it started, you do have, just like a campfire, you have the smoke smell.
You go in the house and you go like, woo, we've been like camping out there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, if the smoke irritates you, and again, depending on the winds and how you're sitting around the fire pit, some people just don't get the enjoyment out of that.
Okay, so then our next option would be a propane tank. Now, this fire pit that I selected for my backyard, I could have ordered it either way. I could have ordered it with a propane tank or natural gas. What are some of the negatives of having that propane tank?
The biggest negative with a propane tank is the fact you have a tank and it has to be filled. So, you know, just like your gas grill, if you have propane with your grill, if you run out, then you're going to have to run up the road and either exchange it or have it filled.
And it seems like every time, you know, when I used to have a propane grill, it was always empty.
It was.
You know,
and it's
ran
always
out halfway through the steak.
correct. You know, you could be here grilling and enjoying the fire pit with company, and in the middle of it, you lose the tank. You know, and if it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, you might not have that availability to get another tank.
And you know, one of the things that I don't like about the tanks is that most, not all fire pits, but most of them, there's no way to conceal that tank.
Correct.
So you have to, you know, first you've got the hose to deal with, and then you've got the tank.
Correct.
And you have to camouflage it behind a bush or under a table or something. And from a designer's perspective, I just didn't want that clutter out here or people tripping over it. So I decided to go with natural gas.
Correct.
But that's not always the perfect, most affordable answer either.
Not either. It depends on your situation at home. You know, where your gas meters are located, the type of construction of your home. We were fortunate here, Vicki, that you have a gas grill here that was fed with natural gas. We were able to tie into this gas line and run about 6, 7 feet, okay, and supply the gas to the fire pit.
Now, if we hadn't have had that grill there, we would have had to have come all the way from the side of the house?
It's possible, all the way from where the meter's located to here, or if there was a gas line under the house that was easily accessible, that was large enough for the fire pit, we could tie into there, but again, we still have to get from underneath the house out to the fire pit, which could mean drilling through the wall of the foundation, digging a bigger trench.
Yeah, we have a terrace here with a cement slab
Correct.
underneath it.
We'd have to get under.
And I guess if you're on a house with a slab, that options are gone too.
That option's gone. And again, at that point, you're either going to have to attach it to the side of the house and try to get it all the way around to your fire pit location, or you're going to have to dig a longer and deeper trench.
Now, how big a trench, how deep of a trench do you have to have?
Typically 18 inches is code to direct bury the gas line in the pit.
So you don't dig into it when you're gardening and that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Now, even though we had the grill here, it wasn't necessarily a fact that we were going to be able to tie into it, because you made me get out the manual that goes with the grill so you could see how many BTUs it draws, how many this draws, because our gas lines sized accordingly?
Yes, they are. And gas lines are sized to the BTU of the appliance. So in this case, we wanted to understand what BTUs you needed to properly run the fire pit and to properly run your grill.
Okay.
The last thing you want to have happen is that all the gas pressure is over here and you don't have enough pressure to cook on over here. And if you have either too high or too low a gas pressure, you could damage the appliance, okay? And the burner in here could deteriorate a lot quicker over time.
So it's really important to have that professional really look at all of those variables and then get your cost factor, because
Correct.
even though you may really want to have natural gas, if you're too far of a run, it could just be the cost
Just
prohibitive.
not feasible, and you may just have to go the wood route.
And everybody has to go
Correct.
which works the best for them. Now, just from a personal standpoint myself, what kind of maintenance do I have to do to this fire pit over the years?
There's really not a lot. As you can see, there is a little bit of debris in there with the leaves. Obviously, this time of the year, keeping the fire pit clean, you know, taking the leaves out, just making sure that the lava rock is in good condition. You know, over time, this rock will wear down a little bit. You'll lose some of it here and there. Periodically,
top
it off a little bit.
Okay.
You know, some of the older gas grills have the same style rock in there as well, and they just, you know, they deteriorate with the heat and the flames.
Okay. Now, I spent a few extra bucks and got the top that goes over this. So is that a good idea to keep that on whenever you're not burning it?
That's a great idea, because again, it keeps all the leaves, debris, critters, things like that, you know, out, and the weather. You know, because, you know, some of these burners are stainless steel, some of them are not. So they can rust, and, you know, if you get, like we have lately with a lot of the rain, again, you could have deterioration on the burners.
Okay, so just real good common sense like you would with an outdoor barbecue grill kind of maintenance that you'd have going forward with it. Well, thank you so much for this information, because, you know, once you decide what you think you want to have, do yourself a favor, get those cost comparisons. Find out, because once you order it, you're pretty well stuck.
It's yours.
Because if you're, you know, they'll ask you when you place your order for a fire pit, do you want natural gas or propane? So get your prices for installation first, and then make your fire pit choice. Thanks a lot, Chris. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
With all the work that you have to do around your house, did you know that there are some plants that basically take care of themselves? That's right. They're called succulents. And I absolutely love these plants because I do a lot of traveling, and I can go off and leave them and they will be fine without any water for a couple of weeks. And depending upon the climate you live in, they can stay outdoors year-round as well. Now I'm in the Carolinas, so I take my succulents and I set them under a covered terrace. You could put them on a porch, but if you're in a colder climate than we are here, you might want to take them indoors. And that's a great thing about them as well. They thrive indoors or outdoors. Okay, here's how you get started. Go to your local craft store, or go to your nursery store, or in my case, farmer's market. You'll find wonderful succulents. Everybody's stocking them nowadays. You want to get a container that, I like one that is low like this one, so that they can kind of spread out, because they grow very quickly. And they're very easy to start a new one from part of the plant that breaks off or gets too large. You can just break it off yourself like a cutting and use it in another container. So this is an old copper bird bath that I had, and I no longer want to use it for that purpose, so I drilled some holes in the bottom, and I've put some gravel down in the bottom to help with drainage. And this is potting soil. Now the potting soil is just a nice mixture of soil, and I don't suggest you get anything that retains water. We don't need that because they're succulents. Now if you live in a real dry area, these are perfect, or a drought area. Now I'm going to add some gravel to my potting soil, same kind that I put into the bottom of my container, and I'm just going to mix it in just like this. And then I'm going to put it into here. I love this big scoop, and before you email me and say, where did you get it? Because I get an email like that at least once a week. You can pick these up at your feed stores, and like if you have a farm and fleet or a Tractor Supply, they all carry these big scoops, and I love them because they're really good for moving a lot of potting soil without having to go back and forth a million times to the bag. Okay, so now we're going to keep that just about like that. We don't want to go too deep with it, because once we get these planted, we can add a little bit more, and then we're going to top off with gravel. Take a look at this little collection of succulents I have around here. Now, the thing that makes these containers really interesting is to use a good variety of them. For example, this tiny little pot right here, this one has 3 different types of succulents in it. Makes it really interesting. This would be a great project for your children or your grandchildren. The larger container, it has like 4 different varieties. So for us today, I picked up some of my favorite ones. And this one You probably, if you had a grandmother that lived on a farm or you ever visited that, you probably were familiar with your hens and chicks. These are just great little fun succulents. They spread really quickly, so it makes them a lot of fun. You'll see those around old farm gardens all the time. This one right here, this is what's called a golden glow, and see the color of it? That's another thing you want to think about. Get a variety of colors so they pop out of the pot. I love this little guy. Doesn't he look like an under the sea little plant? This one, there's a deep dark black purple that you have. He's called Black Prince. See those fabulous colors of the plant? Really contrasts well. All of these are really fun. Little miniature pine tree, this one is called. They all have little cute names as well. Okay, you want to look up in your books and see which ones get tallest if you're not familiar with them, because the ones that get taller, you either want to put them to one side or toward the middle, not all around the outside, because you'll lose some of your really important ones that way. So we're going to take our Black Prince and we're simply going to plant it in the front of our pot, right there, just like that, okay? Now, we're going to take our little, get this out of here, our little hens and chicks. Gosh, I love these little guys, they're really fun. Let's move over here away to the other side and put this one in right about here, okay? Putting them kind of toward the edge so when they start to grow and spread, they'll kind of drape down a little bit. This one is a little taller one, so it's going to go into the middle of our container, like this. You can group them really close together if you want, but this is a big pot, and I want to leave plenty of room for them to kind of spread out and really grow. I don't want to be transplanting them every time I turn around. All right, so these are little pine trees. So let's put these to the back corner. Dig a little bit deeper down in here. Okay, and like I said, don't worry about the ones that break off because they'll just add to them, okay? Let's get this one's called Elephant Plant. I'm not really sure why. Also, you want to try to get some that will hang down as well as go up to make it a little bit more interesting. Let's get him down just a little deeper into that pot. Okay, so we still have room for this guy right here. Now I'm not sure about how big he's going to get, so I'm going to go ahead and put him up to the front. I may have to move him around as he grows, but I'm going to tuck him right in the front, just like that. Okay, push the ground down around him, and this bare spot over here, we'll put our golden glow over in this area. Now I'm going to take some more of my soil and just come around and sprinkle it. Try not to get it into your plants because it's really hard to get them out. I've learned that over the years of working with these because they're so deep they just get right in there. That Black Prince keeps wanting to break off, but I'm not worried about that because it's going to keep on growing for me. Keep adding more to it. You know, I've taken some of the cuttings from some of my larger succulents like I have in my old men here, and I've just taken those and dropped them down on the ground in an area that I didn't want to do any other kind of gardening in, and they spread really nicely. Okay, now that you get them all planted the way you want to have them, then we're going to take some gravel and we're going to top off our dirt. And I like to put gravel over the top because I think it gives it more of a desert look than to have the dirt on the top. Plus it'll hold the moisture in a little bit more. Let them go even longer without having to have any water. And see how nice they contrast those colors? So just continue to go on around, adding your gravel as you go. Just keep rolling on me doing this. Okay. Once you've got all your soil covered with your gravel, then just fill up your watering can, soak them down good. Don't let just be standing in water, but water them thoroughly and set them out into a nice location. They can take direct sun or they can go in the shade, either one. And keep an eye on them. You might want to water them about once a week when you're first getting them started. After that, they're pretty much on their own. Every couple of weeks, just add a little water to them. So next time you're thinking about what's going to happen to my plants when I travel, maybe what you need to do is start planting plants that can take care of themselves. Have you ever wondered what's the right time of the year to do your pruning? Well, before you get out all the heavy equipment and start cutting away, I want you to know that the secret to pruning at the right time of the year is bloom time. Whatever time your bushes and plants bloom, that's going to tell you when you do your pruning. Let me show you what I'm talking about. It's fall, so you think this would be the great time to get this plant that's overgrown back under control. But if you look up and down this stem, you're going to see these little tiny buds. Well, those buds are our spring flowers. So anything that blooms in the spring, you don't want to prune it in the fall. Do you want to know more about the projects today or our guests? Visit us on the web. You're going to find great behind-the-scenes shots, streaming video, project ideas. We even have an e-newsletter with tips and ideas. It's foryourhome.com. Boy, we learned a lot of stuff today, didn't we? Like why we need to get our furnace checked out, what kind of fire pit to purchase, how to save our flower pots, and much, much more. Join me next time right here on For Your Home, because we're going to start a two-part series on how to put in a backyard pool. See you then.
No clap. Oh, God. That was a bad one. There you go. Stand by.
Do you know why you have to have your furnace checked out every fall? Or how about what's the right time of year to do pruning? Ready? Now let's go plant the little succulents and we're all done.